I'm going to call to order this regular meeting of the Page County School Board.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Duper.
Yes.
Dr. Painter. Yes. Ms. Sullivan.
Yes.
Ms. Gordon.
Yes.
Mr. Landry.
Please pause for a moment of silence as we prepare for the meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Fox, do you have any agenda changes or additions?
No, I do not.
Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion that we approve the agenda as given.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot and a second by Dr. Painter to approve the agenda as presented.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Duper.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes.
Ms. Gordon.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that I'd like to certify all personal matters discussed in closed session meeting tonight, section 2.2-3711A1.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot and a second by Mr. Painter to certify matters discussed in closed session.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Duper.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes.
Ms. Gordon.
Yes. There's no citizen comment. And the June minutes are on for review. Does anybody have any questions? I have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mr. Painter to approve the consent agenda. Personnel action?
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Duper.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes.
Ms. Gordon.
Yes. Ms. Owens? Student handbook and code of conduct?
Good evening, members of the board. You've been provided with an overview of updates and a draft version of our student handbook and code of conduct for the upcoming school year. Central office staff and building administrators have worked collaboratively over the last several weeks to merge our parent notification handbook and our student code of conduct into one succinct document. This document will contain division and school information, such as hours of operation, contact information, and the upcoming calendar for the academic school year. The student handbook portion contains previous topics from our parent notification handbook, such as the acceptable use policy, counseling services, student surveys. So in essence, all of the parental notifications are still included. We've also added some new topics that we felt were important for parents and students to be aware of, such as enrollment requirements, graduation requirements, nutritional services information, etc. The Code of Conduct section contains two new portions. One is our student and parent rights and responsibilities, and the other is a section on procedures for dealing with violations. As our previous Code of Conduct contained, this one also contains our student behavior categories and administrative level responses. Throughout the document, you will find references for school board policy and Virginia code as it pertains to certain topics. The updated handbook and code will also have active links for other sites, such as our nutritional services website, and documents such as resources for health services within the document. You will also notice that in this document, we refer parents and guardians to complete PowerSchool forms in the parent portal And working with Mr. Samples, parents and guardians will complete the beginning of the year forms, those normal typical forms we send out, within the parent portal. And to note with that, parents will receive more information in the coming weeks about parent portal and how to access that. I will be able to give you more specific view of what that looks like at our board retreat that's coming up soon. If you have any questions about this new handbook and code of conduct, I'll be glad to answer them.
Good job, Casey.
So I got a question like on the categories of behavioral descriptors and responses. It's on page 46. And they got a lot of X's in there and they got some shaded out areas.
Sure.
I mean, how is that something that's going to be tracked with the parents and the students?
So so a part of our reporting in Power School, it's called incident management. And so these codes correlate directly to the codes that administrators would choose within Power School and incident management.
Okay. And so what I'm asking is, what I want to ask is the communication back to the parent when they're in certain areas here that have already been broached or an incident has happened.
Sure.
Is this sheet going to be like a master sheet that will be in the Power School? They know where their child is at. And what I'm asking is like on, refusal to comply with request on staff, which is on sheet 46. I mean, those X's there, when they get to those first, second, or third X, is that going to be like, your student's right here, it's number 2, and
Well,
one more is a,
Yes and no. So
Okay.
these X's are guides for administrators in terms of what level consequence they can assign.
gotcha.
And that's based on the state codes. So for instance, you can't suspend a child for 10 days for a level 1 offense.
Level 1 offense, right?
Right. So this is more of a guide for administrators in terms of where do we start with the consequences. What parents will see is the level system. That's more in line with what's a descriptor. So if you look on page 37, where it outlines, say, a level 1 offense, these are the behavioral interventions we can do, these are the disciplinary sanctions we can apply.
Gotcha.
That's what the parent's going to receive, because we're going to say from an administrator to the parent, they did XYZ offense, this is the consequence we're giving them, it's a level 1. Now, if it happens again or it's a repeated violation, then it could move to another level, but that's more of what this chart is designed for. It's giving an administrator a guide as to where
All right.
to level the consequence. Does that
And a
make
parent
sense?
can look at that as well and say, hey, I don't think you're being fair to my students here,
Absolutely,
right?
right,
Correct.
right. Because they could say
With the level.
you went too far,
Far.
there's no level 5 should be assigned for that consequence.
Okay.
And what's different about this look, what Miss Owens has done, is it used to be separate. You'd have like 5 or 6 pages for elementary and you'd have 5 or 6 pages for secondary. Now they're all on one. Makes it much more user-friendly for your administrators to go and look at these different offenses. So we don't have control over that part where they lie. Where we have some discretion in what administrators are working on is what are the consequences and the behavioral interventions for the levels. That's what they're working to kind of balance out a little bit more and say, for a level 5 offense, this is an appropriate thing. Does it line with what the state allows you to do? So that's where a lot of their work has been done this summer.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense, and I'm glad to see the way it is. I just think that if I'm a parent and my child is struggling, you say that, and my child is continually having an issue, I want to help my child get to where they need to be, but I also need to know, the rope is kind of getting a little thin here with because I think that's what we try to keep kids in school
Yeah.
last year.
Absolutely.
And, when you do that, it's going to affect everybody, even the ones that are the timid child that's got to sit in the class and they're back.
Yeah. Well, that's why
behaviors.
the partnership between the parents and the administrator in the school is so critical, because we've got to have those conversations. We've got to be able to sit down with the parent and say, look, this is the consequence we're assigning. It's designed to change your child's behavior. We don't want it to happen again, but know that if it does happen again, there's going to be additional consequences because history does matter. We want to impact change. And we have those conversations here. That's why those behavior interventions are so important, because those are the things that help change the behavior and give students an opportunity not to repeat themselves. and put themselves in a different position. Because you do the same thing 5 or 6 times, the consequence is not going to be the same for the 5th or 6th time, because we've already talked to you, we've already guided you, we've already had conversations with your parents. So, we say to parents, read this book. They need to read this book. There's a lot of information in here that's helpful. A lot of it can be overwhelming, but it is important that they take the time to read it and look at it before they sign off.
So do you want us to get in the weeds tonight or
No.
wait till the
You wanna
26th?
wait?
Yeah, so, because what Miss Owens will do is she's
Besides
going to
the
walk you
people
through the
glaring
different
thing.
sections, and we'll talk to you about what these mean and what the SFAR codes are and what the legal ramifications and why we can and can't do certain things.
I was just gonna ask when teachers could start suspending, because that's what it said, when teachers suspend. And I'm like, oh, I can see this coming. Under
We'll get-
Yeah,
short-term
you can talk about it.
suspension.
Yeah.
Page
If we
48.
have questions, we can send them.
Absolutely. That's why we
Over.
wanted you to have it now, so you've got a preliminary look at it. So you can either send us questions now or concerns, or if you see a typo. But then on the 26th, she's going to walk you through it more specifically, and we'll talk in detail. We'll talk about some of the new pieces, how they align with what the state's pushed down. And then if there are changes you guys want to see, we'll be able to make those before the meeting at the end of the month.
And is there any restorative parts of this? Okay,
Yeah,
All of
and
this is
restorative.
designed-
There's restorative practice pieces in those level of response.
okay, good. Because if I mess up, I can apologize, make it up right, then I can look you in the eye.
And
move
that's
on.
part of why
Yeah.
we want to change your behavior, not just give you a consequence.
Right.
Why is what you did wrong, and how can we fix it? That's
Right.
part of what we want to do.
It's a part of us teaching citizenship. And if there are edits that you all find, please let me know. Some of this stuff this information is pulled from our policy, so please point those things out.
Very good, good. Thanks for working on it.
Absolutely,
Thank you very much.
absolutely.
Ms. Seacrest, monthly financials?
Yes, good evening, board members. You all have been provided the monthly financials for the month ending in June in the fiscal year, where expenditures and revenue were $3,817,389.62. And we did balance that with the treasurer, as the local match calculation is also attached. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Seacrest. Dr. Johnson, policy updates?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, members of the school board. Tonight is the first in probably a series of policy visits, I'll say. We have acquired a tracking tool in the form of a pretty nice spreadsheet with some interchangeable tabs. But what we're doing is we are conducting a policy audit. So we're going through our policy manual. We're looking for small edits, maybe errors, maybe typos, maybe things that are missing. Over time, with years, when policies are approved and then uploaded and board docs is merged, sometimes things happen. So tonight is the first pass at some policies, and we're going to, in the first round with our policy tool, we have quite a few policies that we're going to need to bring to you over the next probably month or two, couple months. It's going to take some time. But tonight, we would like to just have you review with us some policies that are actually missing currently in our policy manual. They are VSBA policies. They are VSBA policies that at some point in the past you would have approved because they would have been part of a VSBA policy update. And for one reason or another, I can't tell you, it could have been an edit, it could have been an accidental cut when something was being pasted. But we did find that we had some things missing that we need to get back in there sooner than later. And so the explanation is the best document for me to just share with you as I present tonight. And you can see that all of these policies, you've seen most of these before, but if you go to board docs and our policy manual, they're not coming up. So we want to bring them back to you, make sure we have a record that we have updated them and gotten them board approved again. The first one, access to employee social media accounts. All of these are VSBA. They're all in the VSBA policy manual. They're all vetted by VSBA attorneys. But this provides us with legal coverage, particularly in the event Maybe somebody has used a Chromebook or a laptop that belongs to the school division and inadvertently left their login information on it. And so then somebody comes behind them and accidentally then you might find yourself in somebody's account. So this policy tackles that. It gives us guidance. It provides cover if it's accessed. It also provides some language on how we should respond. Should, say, legal authorities come to us and say, have you seen it, or does it exist, or is it on your machine? Okay, last year, one of the schools, we had a machine actually seized by law enforcement because the student had it. So now the student was logging into other things, even though we have locks on that kind of thing. Sometimes there are filters that the kids learn how to get around that sort of thing. So this policy is current and necessary for us to have in our manual. GAE, child abuse and neglecting reporting. Again, this policy we've had active in our manual. Provides process and requirements of our faculty and staff on how to go about the mandatory reporting process. GAH regulates employee board conflicts of interest. And you all know, if you've been on the board long enough, we've visited this from time to time. But this is specific. It covers nepotism, gifts and favors, contracts, transactions, all of the things that could exist in a conflict of interest, and clearly provides guidance on when a board or a faculty or an administrator needs to step back in light of a potential conflict of interest. Couple of reporting forms, I'll discuss them together, and these are both, there are two policies, for instance, GBA-F and JFH-F, and then you can see they're flipped. That's because they're in two sections. They're in the personnel section and the student section. And so the reporting form for harassment currently is not in our policy manual. It needs to be. It's where somebody would print it and have the document that they would need to begin. In our policy, you don't have to fill out the form. If you send an email, if you document any way, shape, or form, we're going to respond to a concern of discrimination or harassment. But there is a VSBA vetted form that we want in our policy manual. So that's GBA-F, and then the bottom one, JBF, it's also similar form for discrimination complaint. GBEF JHCL, this is lactation support, and again, this is for personnel and in the student section. It simply says we have to designate as a school division non-restroom areas for employees and students in regards to lactation. And finally, GBMA, and again, we know this has been in our policy manual over the years, provides specific clarification on the grievance process. It clearly states what the timelines are. It provides the information about an impartial hearing administrator that we would use. So this is the beginning of, I'm really pleased to see the tool that we've got access to now. And there's been a lot of work done. And so now we need to get them in front of you, but we don't want to bring, a lot of policies at any time. I want to do them methodically, and so that we can really pay attention and take questions and have you all process what's coming at you. So we would ask at the next meeting, we'll bring it back as an action item.
Thank you. Does anybody have questions? Thank you.
Yep.
Dr. Fox, policy BB, student representative to the school board.
Yes, so in the policy vein tonight, this is actually a new policy for you as well. And this would be for us to introduce having a student be a part of the school board process. So the policy outlines how that would happen, and then I've shared with you all a tentative timeline for the adoption of this policy and the getting the applications out to students, and a copy of the letter that would go to eligible students, be a junior or senior from our high schools. So this is, again, a first read tonight. So if you have any suggestions or comments or anything you'd like to see us change either in the policy or the process, let me know. We'll bring this back to you at the 28th of this month, make it official, push the applications out to students on the 1st of August. And then, once we approve it, I will then need you all to select who would do the interviews for the students. It could be all of you, it could be some of you. So that's at your discretion as to who wants to participate on that. But we would then look forward to potentially having a student here to be approved for their first meeting on the 22nd of September. Any questions or concerns or updates you want to the policy before we move it forward to the next meeting?
No, I'm glad we're doing it. I think it'll be a great experience.
Okay, so we'll bring this back to you at the next meeting then. Thank you.
Thank you. Accountability and accreditation, Ms. Ryman?
Good evening, board members. Before I start, I just want to give a big thanks to everyone in this room with the Page County staff and everyone I've met thus far in 7 short days. It has not felt like a year. And thank them for the warm welcome. I've already felt very at home, and I appreciate that very much. So yeah, very briefly this evening, I wanted to give you a little update about accreditation status as we're entering that season when data is being finalized and that train starting down the path of hearing about information. So there's lots of dates that the state releases, little things here and there for school divisions to review, but the 2 big key dates for you to keep in mind, for the public to keep in mind, are August 18th. That's when the VDOE will release a press release with state results, district results, school results, and have that available. School quality profiles will be updated at that time as well. And there's a wealth of information on there that we'll talk about much later. The second date, a little over a month after that, September 22nd, is when the DOE will issue a press release with actual accreditation ratings for the 22-23 school year. Actually, with that in mind, my title probably should have been 22-23. I'm in the habit of thinking this year because they're using this year's data, but that's how that works, as you know. It's important to remember that no data from 2019-20 or 2021 will be used in this process given the school closures and the tremendous impact that had. However, because there's typically a 3-year average that's calculated and used in this process, since they're not going to look at those 2 previous years, they're going to reflect all the way back to 17-18 and 18-19. So we have quite a longitudinal set of data that'll be used that may play a role in that. The next to last thing there is probably the most complex piece of this, and you're really just kind of getting the movie trailer, if you will, tonight to this because it's quite in depth, and you'll get more about that at the board retreat and as information becomes available. And a growth model has existed in the state of Virginia for some time. However, that model changed pretty dramatically this past school year. You may recall students in grades 3 through 8 took a reading and math growth assessment at the beginning of the year. So that weighs in. Also, the access for English language learners, the WIDA access test. And it could even mean reflecting back to last spring's SOL. So the scenarios in this are incredibly complex and very unique almost to every individual child, which is why it's not as easy to explain as we would like, but we will certainly do our best to make that clear. Bless you. Okay. So again, more coming on that. And lastly, just a reminder that history is not a part of Virginia accreditation anymore. However, the scores are reported. That's certainly an area that I know Page County and all the other divisions across the state continue to emphasize because we all understand the importance of history. So that data will be available, but just understand that doesn't play a role in the accreditation rating. So with that, we'll see how all this rolls out and keep you informed as it goes. And I myself am looking forward to the first day of school of getting out in our buildings and meeting and interacting with our students. So thank you.
Any questions? Thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you.
Dr. Fox, work session update?
Yes, so just to come back to a question you all had at the last meeting was about public comment in our work session. So after talking with our division attorney and the VSBA attorney, essentially a couple of things. You're not required by law to have public comment in any meeting. Obviously we do because we have a policy that we welcome it. The recommendation is right now, the way we've presented our work sessions is they essentially count as regular meetings. And the language in our policy is that we welcome public comment during most regular meetings and during public hearings. So if we were to move to a structure where a work session was just called more like a special meeting, like, you know, when, the one we did for the masking, or for if you were going to hire a new superintendent, hopefully not soon. Those are special meetings. You just call them. You aren't required there to have public comment. You do at your budget hearings. Those are qualified as hearings, and you have comment there. The advice is right now, your work sessions sort of are considered regular meetings. So the advice would be, you have the choice, but the advice would be that you probably allow a public comment based on what's on the agenda in those. You don't have to, you're not required to, but you all can make the decision if you want to or not. So it's up to you all.
And the work sessions will be televised as well.
Work sessions right now, you've decided you all want to continue to stream them just for the transparency of that. And if we did comment, it would be just like we would do tonight. It would be open online or in person. The thing that would be different about the work session is we did change the time.
Times.
So people would need to be here earlier. Did we say 5:30 for the work session? 5?
5.
So people would need to be here by 5 in order to speak in person, or they could submit their comments online before that. So we're going to start in September with the work sessions. You can try it, see how it goes, make a decision. You can say no and then add it if you want to. It's up to you all.
I think if they're considered a regular meeting, we keep it on there and see how it goes.
And if
Is
at some
everybody
point,
okay?
yeah, if we start moving away and saying we don't need a work session every month and we only have a regular meeting, you may then decide, if you call a work session for that individual work session, you decide if you want public comment on it.
Is it the first or second one of them?
First is the work session. Okay, so you're gonna have it for now and we'll see how it
And
goes.
we'll see how it goes. Everybody okay? Okay, thank you.
Yep.
We're up again with the superintendent's update.
Okay, so just a few things for you tonight. I certainly want to welcome Mrs. Ryman as well. I wish I had put my presentation before yours so we could welcome you first, but we're excited to have you and welcome aboard. So just a quick COVID update for you. You're seeing some rumblings of it coming back now in some areas. So this is the CDC chart that shows the community transmission rates. Green is that you're in the low, and we've been in low since probably April, based on the new CDC guidance. But you can see that across the state, we're starting to creep up with some areas being in the medium and the high again. I think when we ended the school year, the vast majority of the state was in green. So just giving you this tonight, just to keep an update for you on where we are, and that we're keeping our eye on it right now. It has not been a problem for us in the summer programs. We've had some staff in and out with quarantines or being positive, but for the most part, it's not impacted our summer programs at all. There are new CDC guidelines that have come out with some additional guidance. Mr. Pitts is working with Dr. Johnson to determine how those will impact us moving forward. And so what we'll do is at a later date, we'll share that information with you all, provide updates, and we'll make sure that parents, students, and staff know what those new guidelines are and how they impact us in terms of things like quarantines. You want to add anything, Dr. Johnson, to that?
No, ma'am. You did that, ma'am.
So that's COVID, quick, short, dirty. In terms of budget, this is important for you all tonight. Later on your action items, there is a request for an approval of a resolution. That resolution is to ask the Board of Supervisors for additional funding for our FY23 budget. So what we're going to be asking them for is for $217,000 for those 3 additional positions: the alt ed teacher, the electricity teacher, and the behavior specialist. We're going to also ask them for the difference between the governor's proposed budget and what was approved in the capital improvement funds, school construction funds. That was a difference of about $300,000. So we're going to ask them to fund us with that so we can go from 1.8 million to 2.1 million. And so again, the resolution that you hopefully will approve tonight, we will forward that to them, and this will be on their agenda this coming Monday night. There's a Board of Supervisors meeting at 7 o'clock at the County Administration Building in the boardroom on the 2nd floor. So we will be present there to answer any questions that they might have, but we're going to formally put that request, as you all asked that we do, we're going to put that request out and see where we land on Monday night with the Board of Supervisors. And then just quickly, because it's crazy that we're already in the middle of July, and believe it or not, these dates will be here before we know it. So we just, for you all and for our public, just a reminder of some of the things that are getting ready to come up, that we'll have our new teacher orientation starting in August 8th and 9th. All of our teachers and staff will return on the 10th of August. We're going to have our convocation, and we've sent you all an invitation to that event at the Page County High School on the 12th. Students and parents will engage in their orientation processes on the 17th and 18th. And then the 22nd, we're rocking and rolling. We have our first day of school. And just a reminder to all of our students and parents that first week we do early dismiss at 12:30. And then we're back on. So it's come quickly, but we'll be there. So that's all I have for you all tonight as an update. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you.
Thank you.
The SROs, big grant. What was this?
Yeah.
What's the latest on that? Oh, you sent some message.
Yeah, the sheriff's office submitted the grant yesterday.
Okay.
And it's for 2 SROs. One is at Shenandoah Elementary School, one's at Luray Elementary School. They anticipate hearing about those by August 1st. So in the next couple of weeks, we should know about that. And the good news there is they are 4-year grants instead of 3-year grants. So that gives
Really?
But it's you got to pay percent. It's staggered down to give you, you don't get the
Creates
full money
sustainability.
every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
so you
match
build in
required.
for the county to be able to absorb it as a local cost.
Yeah, not the first year. I don't think there's a minimum.
No, the
I think
first year, and then-
Subsequent
Right.
years or.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Seacrest, claims for payment?
Yes, good evening again, board. You have been provided the claim certification where the operating fund was $803,163.52. Food service fund, $19,670.47. Total expenditures, $822,833.99. Along with that, you've been provided with the list of claims as well as the check registers. If you have any questions, I will do my best to answer.
Chairwoman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the claims for payment as presented.
Second. Oh, sorry.
That's all right. We have a motion by Mr. Gubler, a second by Mr. Painter to approve the claims for payment as presented.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Ms. Seacrest, purchase orders over 10,000?
Yes, board, we have 8 purchase orders for your approval this evening over 10,000. They are copy leases, custodial supplies, copy paper, governor's school tuition, and the Medicaid billing program. All are basic start of fiscal year purchase orders. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
I just have one on the governor's school. How many does that pay for?
11 students.
It's an increase of 1 from last year.
And that's a one-time cost, 51.
Each year.
Each year, recurring every year, but yeah.
Okay.
We're going to hope to get another slot or 2 next year. They're really bound by how many they can have, but they're trying to help grow it. So we were really happy to get another student in this year. So we're going to push for another 1 or 2 next year and see what we get.
I'd like to request a list of those students for the board. Just know who they are.
I make a motion that we approve the purchase orders over 10,000.
Second?
The motion by Dr. Painter, a second by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot to approve the purchase orders over 10,000.
Yes.
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 Yes. Ms. Seacrest, the resolution to the Board of Supervisors for the additional FY23 funds.
Yes, board members, I will read this resolution into the record. Resolution to the Page County Board of Supervisors requesting adjustment of the 2022-2023 school budget for additional state revenue and local funding requests. Whereas the Page County Board of Supervisors adopted the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget based on the projected governor's biennial budget, and whereas the governor's biennial budget was adopted on June 6, 2022, shows an increase in state operating funding for Page County Public Schools, and whereas this additional revenue will exceed the original estimated budget for 2022-2023 by $27,403, and whereas the governor's biennial budget shows a decrease in state capital improvement plan funding for Page County Public Schools, And whereas this decrease in revenue will reduce the original estimated budget for 2022, 2023 by $302,939. And whereas Page County Public Schools, in order to meet the needs of students and growing programs, will need 3 additional positions: alternative education teacher, electricity teacher, and behavior specialist. And whereas the Page County Public Schools requests additional local appropriations to acquire these 3 positions. And whereas the salary and benefits of these 3 positions will exceed the original estimated budget for 2022-2023 by $217,900. Now, excuse me, therefore it be resolved that the Page County School Board respectively requests the Page County Board of Supervisors to appropriate $9 for 3 additional positions, $3,200,939 for capital improvement projects totaling $519,948, which would increase local appropriation, as well as appropriate $27,402 in additional sales tax state funding, which was included in the 2022-2023 budget approved by the school board on June 23rd, 2022, with no changes to the local appropriation. Pages 2 and 3 of this document have tables on them. This is a little bit different than what you all are used to seeing. It's usually in one table. And speaking with Dr. Fox as well as with the budget officer from the county, we felt that 3 tables would be best to show the different sections, since the additional state funding was already approved in the first budget that you all did in June. And then the additional Fund 1 operating and then Fund 2 capital. This is to certify that the foregoing resolution was authorized by the Page County School Board during its regular session on Thursday, July 14th, 2022.
Mr. Chairwoman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the resolution to the Board of Supervisors for the additional FY23 funds as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gubler and a second by Mr. Painter to approve the resolution to the Board of Supervisors for additional FY23 funds as presented.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Beardle.
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Dr. Johnson, nutritional services response?
Yes, ma'am. At the last meeting, Mrs. Jeffries presented to you the RFP for bids for fresh produce, and you might remember there were 2 folks that responded to that. Ms. Jeffries was able to present that both or all respondents were awarded then opportunities to provide us with fresh produce. And so tonight we're asking for approval for that.
I'll make a motion that we approve nutritional services response from RFP -0512-22A- fresh produce.
Second.
A motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mr. Painter to approve the nutritional services response from the RFP for fresh produce.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Goodwin.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan.
Yes.
Ford.
Yes. Dr. Johnson, the nutritional services response from the mainline foods.
Yes, so IFB was similar. There were bids received for mainline foods, which is bread, milk, grocery items, things of that nature. And with this one, the lowest price was awarded for each category. And so we ask for your approval for that as well.
I make a motion that we approve the nutritional service response from IFB-0518-22B.
Second.
A motion by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot and a second by Mr. Gubler to approve the nutritional services response from mainline foods, paper goods, and cleaning items.
Mr. Goodwin.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Board member discussion time?
I have 2 things. First, I just want to say thanks to everyone in the school system who has been working diligently to prepare for the 22-23 school year. And some of the things that we saw, like the Page County Public Schools Leaders Program and whatever, I think it's a wonderful idea. And, you know, it's an opportunity for all of you out there in the school system to bring forth your ideas, your concerns, your suggestions. You need to share, because if you don't tell us, we don't know. So keep that communication going. I'm excited for it. And I have a special shout out tonight for the boys 12U group baseball from Shenandoah that's going to the World Series in Maine. And it's the first time, according to the paper, in the history of Shenandoah that this has happened. And our girls softball team, they won, and they're going back to North Carolina. I don't know all the details there, but to all of you, if you're listening, we're very proud of you. I know you've had a lot of effort and time put in, and parents, we appreciate your cooperation and letting them be exposed to all this. And I know it's a lot of time involved, but what an opportunity and what an experience that 20 years from now, they'll look back and say, oh my gosh, do you remember? Those are memories that can't be taken. So again, congratulations to all of you and for all the rec programs in the entire county. You're to be commended for all the effort you put into these programs because it's time and effort. So we're just proud of all of you. So God bless you in all your travels and best of luck.
I think the girls are playing now, right?
I think they
Yes,
are.
they are.
I think the 12U girls are playing.
I think they won the first game. They're back good, so. Well, welcome. You've got a lot of work in front of you. And I'm encouraged to hear that you want to go to the different levels, to understand at every level. Because I think that's where your learning is really on the level 1 area. So I hope you get out there and make a difference. And Jim Grimley said would give you a reference, a positive reference. I talked to him at the gas station. Yep. I talked to him at the gas station and asked about you, and he said, yeah, I know her. You got a good one there. So that's good. Yep.
I want to just thank everybody who was involved with the remote area medical clinic that happened this past weekend at Luray High School. If you've never been around one, I encourage you to come check it out next year. Free medical, vision, dental for about 215 people. It was provided. It was really cool. So thank you, Dr. Fox, Mrs. Clark, the school system opened Luray High School. It was amazing. Miss Jeffries did a phenomenal job feeding like 250 volunteers every day. So it was really a pretty cool thing to watch. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we're bringing it next year. We're working alongside of the Page Free Clinic. So hopefully we'll have LHS again. But thank you to everybody that was involved. We had a lot of local volunteers and doctors and dentists there. So it was pretty good.
I make a motion and we adjourn.
Second.
So we have a motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot to adjourn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We're adjourned.